Pitch shifters are my personal favorite type of effect. You can use them to harmonize, you can use them to get glitchy, but either way, in this video, I'm going to show you 5 pro tips for using them effectively. Pro tip number 1 is, do not be afraid to run your pitch shifter after your distortion pedals, or even in the effects loop of your amp, especially if what you want it to sound like is that there's more than one guitar playing in harmony. My go-to harmonizer is the Boss PS6 Harmonist. This is what that sounds like before a distortion pedal. And in this case, my distortion pedal is the Barbershop from Fairfield Circuitry. And this is what it sounds like after the distortion. In fact, it's in the effects loop of my amp. Notice how much more that sound like 2 different guitars? The reason is that the best way to do that is to give the harmonizer the most complete version of your guitar tone, including the distortion, and then have it clone that and create the harmony based on that. Most modern pitch shifters are going to be able to handle the distortion. They'll be able to track. It's okay. At least the Boss PS6 certainly can. By the way, if you want to buy any of the gear in this video, I have affiliate links you can use that'll give me a small commission on anything you purchase. I'll put the affiliate links in the video description. Money! Okay, pro tip number 2 is this. Despite what I said in pro tip number 1, it can still be cool to run a pitch shifter into your distortion pedals or into the front of your amp. That's just a different sound, and I think it should have a different goal. The goal with that, I think the coolest thing you can do is to use the pitch shifter to bring your signal down 1 octave, sub-octave, and then blend that in with your clean signal. But only blend it in a little bit. So your signal is still there, and then there's a little bit of your signal 1 octave lower. The idea here is to create like a sub-boost overdrive. You'll hear a lot of overdrives described as having a mid-boost, which means like the overdrive pedal will accentuate your mid frequencies especially, and then that'll hit your amp a certain way and create a certain type of mid-focused overdrive, which is very popular and good. That's cool, but what we're doing now is that, but instead of mid frequencies, it's your sub frequencies. And the pedal I'm going to use to demonstrate this is the POG from Electro-Harmonix, the polyphonic octave generator. There have been many versions of this pedal. The one I have is the first one, the POG 1. And one thing I like about this one in particular is that it has a level boost, but if you turn that all the way up, it'll start to break up on its own. So this is what it sounds like. Here's my signal without it. And then here's my signal using the POG as a sub boost. Notice how much more ripping that is, and notice how the pitch shift is like not even the first thing you would notice. That's the key to this sound. It shouldn't sound like a pitch shifter. It should sound like an overdrive with sub boost. Pro tip number 3 is, if you have a pitch shifter that can do perfect fifths, then you should set it to perfect fifths and play chords. In my opinion, one of the most beautiful sounds there is chords being artificially harmonized in perfect fifths. The blend you want is 50% your normal signal and 50% the pitch shift. In the example you're about to hear, I'm using the Syntax Air from Alexander Pedals as my pitch shifter. This pedal can do a lot of things, but one of the things it can do is pitch shifting, and it has perfect fifths in it. And then just to make things extra interesting, I'm running that into the Attack Decay from Electro-Harmonix just to smear the onset of my notes a little bit. Pro tip number 4 is if you have a pitch shifter that can work with an expression pedal, it can be fun to set it so that the expression pedal is controlling the interval the pitch shifter uses. And that way you can change your note mid-note by stepping on the expression pedal. Now, depending on how your pitch shifter is set up, like if it has every chromatic interval next to each other, stepping through that on the expression pedal, sometimes it can sound a little too chromatic. But there are pitch shifters that work especially well for this. The Fever pitch from Alexander Pedals is one because it puts +1 octave and +2 octaves right next to each other. So you can focus the expression pedal just to jump between those two intervals, and that has a cool sound. But in the example you're about to hear, I'm just using the Boss PS6 again, and it's sort of like hopping up and down to a perfect fifth. But I'm also not just using any normal expression pedal to do this. I'm using the side step. The side step does what expression pedals do, but it can run automatically. So this is what it sounds like to use the side step to control the Boss PS6. Pro tip number 5 is there's a low-tech way to mess with pitch shifting if you want to, which is just to take any delay pedal and then change the delay time while you're playing. That will produce a very abrupt, very chaotic pitch shift, but it is usable. In the example you're about to hear, my delay pedal is the Maude from Fairfield Circuitry. I chose this one specifically because part of its sound is that at high feedback settings, it just sort of produces this like washy darkness, and the pitch shifts sound good devolving into that. But the way I was producing the pitch shifts was that I was using the side step again, and I had the side step set to random. So as I was playing, this delay pedal was getting these random fluctuations sent to it in its delay time, and that produced a cool pitch shift. I should also mention there's another way you could do this without the side step, which would be to use the Sending from Electronic Audio Experiments. This is another delay pedal that can also do that sort of like dark washy thing. And this just got a firmware update that will let it self-modulate randomly. I wasn't able to get the firmware update together in time for this video, so instead I was doing it the high-tech, low-tech way, which was that I was using 2 pedals to do it. I was controlling my delay pedal with the side step. This is what that sounds like.